Hello and welcome back. This is Grillenheimer. Very interesting circumstances that we have put us in when people that are violent and possibly with mental illness turn around to say how the people that are not violent are causing the other people to become violent that are carrying it out, and then in turn wanting to create more violence because the other side isn't violent and supposedly inciting it. This is insane. This doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever in all my years. And then we have the issue with the weapons. And then, of course, we can't forget the heroic stories that have come out of this as well, from the quick cop response, the lady that was a teacher there, or an adult who went to the aid of the kids right off after hearing stuff fired. But, I saw a couple of memes on Facebook that are going around. And I think both we can take to the bank. And one of them, I don't know how true this is. You have a jar, and you put a bunch of black ants in there, a bunch of red ants in there. Supposedly, they will not fight each other unless the person holding the jar shakes it. And that will agitate both factions of the different colored ants to attack each other. Like I said, I think it's a great analogy, but how true it is for ants to really do that, I'm not sure. But I mean, we do have black ants and fire ants and some other ants, wood ants, carpenter ants, sugar ants, all in our yard, and I've never, really seen them fight each other per se. But there is a circle of life there in an environment that's so small we don't notice it all the time. But at the same time, there was another meme going around about Cain had a rock and used the rock to kill his brother. And then David had a rock and used it to kill Goliath. Cain was a bad person, and David, at the time, was the good person. The rock was just the item used to do the deed. So, of course, David was rocking a sling. In Genesis, it might be another story, I'm not sure. And that's one thing, and I made a comment to my friend. I'll just call him Dean. That's not his name. But I replied to Dean. I said, dude, these people have been doing this for over 30 years. Since we graduated high school in the early 90s, where they were even trying to use the media to just say SUVs were killing people, cars, inanimate objects, and that the guns are killing people, that they won't, these people, these Democrats and some Republicans, the swamp in general, will not come out and say who the villain is. They just won't. They won't say who the enemy is. So if once you can finally, just like in an AA class or something, the first thing you do is to at least admit what your fault is. And that's what these people are not doing. These politicians, they are not admitting who the enemy is. Once we can face the enemy, then we can start working on a solution to help dissolving these problems. But they don't want to do that. They just want control, and that's what their policies, most of the Democrat policies, want to do, is go against the Constitution and control the people. And like they did about 3 years ago with fear. So that's all they want. That's all these people want. And it's just scary how much of this is just being allowed to happen. It seems like no matter how we vote, some things are getting better. We're winning small victories, and that's the best we can do. As much people are just hating on Florida, a lot of people oddly are moving to Florida, including a very popular Transformer YouTuber who used to live in Delaware, I think, who couldn't simply buy a Megatron and have it shipped to him. Bet he's got one now. Well, if he's got the money after his moving from New England to Florida. But, and that's another thing I heard on the radio this morning. I'm trying to just bring all this together. Is that this one guy called in to the local commentary who goes over politics. He goes all over local events, weather, traffic. He goes over a lot of everything. He's not just always political. But he had this guy call in. He goes, we really need to face the real issue here. Hopefully I just didn't just lose my train of thought, which happens all the time. And that is, once upon a time, we would have our trucks, and people or kids would have a rifle on the back of their pickup truck and go to school in high school. And if they had beef with each other, they would go out and just beat each other up. The guns were not part of this violence. And the man did mention about video games. And at the same time, and back in the late 90s, I was like poo-pooing. I'm like, oh, come on, video games? Really? Are y'all pulling this card again? Of course, I'm mixing today's radio monologue with a caller with ideas of video games being the problems of violence in the mid to late 90s. But in the mid to late 90s, of course, I was playing. Of course, this, again, is just my perspective, and it's not always true. I was playing action games. I was playing Sonic, and Spyro was real big. I didn't have the Sony until later. But, action games were big. The fighting games were big. Blood and Mortal Kombat was the controversy at the time for whatever reason. And Sega was like, we're putting it on the Genesis. We may not have, our system may not be as good as the SNES in some ways, but we're not taking the blood out of the game. And it was just a game. And it was silly, and it was fun, and it was just a fighting game. And the graphics, it didn't look that realistic, even though they were using real people to model for motion capture of the game, which was interesting. But and I love Doom. Doom was on the computer, and when I was a DJ, I would stay up at the radio station, and I'd stay up there at night, go up there in college and be done with my work, be done with this, and I'd go up to the radio station and just play Doom on the PC up there because it was better than the one I had at home. Even though we weren't supposed to be having games on the PCs on campus or whatever, but it wasn't even mine. It was whoever was over the program director at the time. So, and I didn't see much a big ado about nothing with Doom because of the graphics, because how very simple it was. To me, it was more like Gauntlet in 3D to some extent, even though you had a gun roster you could kind of choose from, or even you with your fist if you want to make it really hard, or if you just ran out of ammo, you were stuck with your hands and you'd die pretty quick. But I can see where this guy mentions this today in today's environment, because I did see coming down the pike, despite all the fun games, the Sonics, the Hydro Thunder, the Ridge Racers, the Daytonas, the Sega Rallies, and all these other really fun games, and people would gravitate to sports and first-person shooting games. And there's a certain group of guys, and that's all they did. That's all they do. And the Halos and the 007 on the N64, which I didn't find that great. I didn't really ever. I didn't ever own an N64. No, I didn't. And even then, if I'd gotten one, I would have gotten it for Gauntlet Legends, because I was a completely different gamer than all these other people that just wanted to play the next shooting game, or the next football game, or the next basketball game. Oh, it's Y2K. Oh, now it's Y2K1. Now it's Y2K2. Oh, let's get the new Y2K3 game. And I'm like, it's nearly the same game, because I even worked at a game store. There's one over here I'm next to. That even the owner, we had words. I mean, we were agreeing on everything. We weren't debating or arguing or anything. And it's like, yeah, this stuff sells. It's pretty much the same game. Maybe a little bit looks a little better than the one from last year, but it's the same thing. And people would come in, trade their old one to buy the new one, and just wax in, wax off. Kind of gaming. It was a mom and pop kind of game trade store thing, but that's all a lot of boys just want to play, is just shooting up games. That's all my son really wants to play, and he likes Fortnite, and I've allowed him to play Fortnite, unfortunately, and he finds it fun, and it's okay. I've played a little on the Switch too, but I just can't believe that if that's all these kids are doing, and not also getting out and doing other things socially, then yeah, that maybe that could be bad. If that's all that they are watching and doing, is playing these gun games, first-person shooter games all the time. Could it be desensitizing them? Maybe not, because it's still not reality. Even though, once you got into the first Xbox with Call of Duty and Halo, the graphics were looking a lot better, a lot more realistic. Then you went to the 360 and the PS3, and now whatever we have today, who knows what it looks like, because I don't know. I don't have these new systems. Plus, they're hard to find anyway. But I mean, if that's all you're getting your kids, then, and that's all they want, they're interested in, then you might have an issue. Even though I will admit, those are fun games too, as an old gamer myself. And because that's one thing these kids don't understand, is how much they have that's right in their hands, that they take for granted. That, when I was my son's age or younger, I was, well, let's see here, 84, 86, I was around 12 to 14 years old. And my friend and I, and sometimes by myself, would ride my bike, and it was about almost a mile away to the closest gas station, and they'd have like 1942 or Ghost and Goblins or Forgotten Worlds or some mostly Capcom games, or if we were brave enough to cross the freeway to this other place, they actually had a couple of arcade games and a pool table and maybe a pinball machine. And that's what you did. You didn't have this stuff in your hand. You were at the mercy of whatever these places had, how much you were willing to pay to play per game, 1 quarter, 2 quarters, 3 quarters, whatever. to get enjoyment, to see, quote unquote, like the original Donkey Kong said, how far can you get? And I can't see that video games are all of it. I can see, because of how realistic they are now, that maybe it could be a problem if they are not getting out and doing some scouting stuff, doing some biking stuff, doing just getting outside, guys. And I'm going to ask my son to do that with me today. See, it's been a really nice day, a little cool, a little warm, and see if he wants to go out and play disc golf. It's like, hey, this would be a great day to do disc golf. Because it's supposed to storm Friday night. Today's Thursday, and we're supposed to be getting together with a friend of his and their family and go biking somewhere about an hour away from here. And I don't know if we're going to do it because it might be too muddy to dirt bike. But yeah, get out, do stuff. And unfortunately, I do have one of my kids just doesn't want to do crap and just stays in the room all the time. And at least she is doing crafts. She's been doing a lot with her hands. She does have a sewing machine. She loves making stuff, and she's been working on a patchwork quilt, I think. That's not the right word, but she is working on something. Just wish she would get outside a little more, even if it's just out in the backyard. But the whole point of this is that, you know, people pointing at other people that really aren't doing much, claiming that one side is inciting the violence that they themselves are doing, just sounds very hypocritical to me. There's something wrong about this, and trying to make the person that offed 6 people a victim, and that's just backwards. This isn't the America I grew up in. And with that, please, you know, going about our daily lives, you know, if you have Christ in your heart, keep him close. And people are going to try to tell us prayer doesn't work when it does, because it shows that we love. It shows that we care. It shows that we do want to de-escalate issues. It does show that, you know, we have a heart. And that's what a lot of people, and I don't care, you know, what you're attracted to. If you're attracted to the same sex, a light pole, a car, a fuzzy animal, whatever, you know, you're either with God or without God. And it's something we each have to contend with and to think about, metacognate about, and really go to the depths of your soul and think about you. Think about yourself. Not your wants, but your spiritual needs. Because I think that's what part of the beginning of a solution to all this, especially concerning mental health issues. So like I said on a previous video before, is, you know, we need to de-stress. You need God. You need prayer in your life. We need a spiritual focus. And so many people, the people that are lacking this, lacking these things, feel that hole in their life. They feel that there is something missing, and they know there's something more. They know that there's something more important than just them, than just the next shiny thing to the next shiny thing, to the next temptation, to the next thing they just, you know, want, gotta have, whatever it is you're wanting to pleasure yourself with. whether that's something fun to buy, something fun to play with, a new pet to enjoy, a new car, sexual, food, comforts, whatever. Temptations are everything. And we do make that too much of our lives. And we have to realize, one, we're more than the sum of our parts. Two, that God is real. That three, helping, praying, and focusing on Him helps bring about, I almost said a holistic nature, but just a center to yourself and your personality and who you are. Remember who you are, and where you came from, and how you got from where you were to where you are now. Because when I look at my life and I see my testimony and see God's hand in my life and how things have unfolded throughout the decades, that you realize how much of a hand He really had in my life. And if you don't get to experience that, and you're willing to put others in harm's way or to end theirs for the sake of you wanting to end yours, then you really need to start thinking about not just your wants, not your immediate pleasure, but your true need and your true purpose in life. Because there is something bigger here going on. There really is. With that, I've got to go. I want to say thank you for listening. Thanks be to God. And thanks to all my 60-something subscribers here. And if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe and hit the like button. That's something I don't normally say with every video. Just to help with, not exactly the algorithm, but to help me know that you're listening. I do see where I see some people that listen that aren't subscribed. For the most part, my viewership is very small, and I'm fine with that. I like being able to speak my mind, being able to spread my opinion, and get it out there, because sometimes I have these very strong emotions that just feel the need to say, y'all need to hear this. Even if I'm just parroting a lot of other people and things that I hear and see and experience. Because I think this helps bridge us all together, helps unify us in various ways, through games, through Transformers, through cartoons, through fun media. And, no matter who you're playing with at the table or the phone, you never know who you're going to play with and how much that may mean to them. And I have learned that the hard way. Patience is key. Love is key number one. Forgiveness is definitely involved in the top three. So have patience, have forgiveness. See you next time. Thanks again. And blessed be the Lord. And bless your own way as well. Thanks for watching.